Maddie Daddy. All gas, no brakes. We're here Tuesday Night Delight, and we are on fire. Tonight I have a very special guest talking new RB Tandems, baby. Everybody wants the Kamara Ingram. Everybody wants the Chubb Hunt. And there's only one guy to bring it. He's always bringing that fire and that desire. NFL Network, broadcasting, journalism. This man has you covered from top to bottom. It is Marcas Wild Thing Grant, baby. Dude, you are awesome. Thank you, buddy.
Dude, I appreciate you having me on. I just saw your hat, which is flames, dude. Like it's straight up, down, left, right, BA start. Like that's a pretty sweet hat.
Well, we were talking about how the world's evolving. Walmart is evolving. You can buy this hat for $10 at Walmart.
That's amazing. All right, well, now I have to go check out my local Walmart.
Hey, if your wife asks you to go grocery shopping, just do it.
I just had to. It was just there. I had to pick it up. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, it was there. Luke, all we're ready in the chat. Let's effing go. Thank you, Luke. Dude, Marcas, you were doing all these favors for everybody in the fantasy circuit. You're like one of those wrestlers just hitting town to town. You know, autograph signings, talking, teaching. Dude, from the fantasy community, before we get started and pick your brain, you're the man, and thank you.
Yeah, you know what? I always say this. Like, long time ago, before I was doing this job, like, I did a podcast with some friends. I produced radio shows. I always have to book guests. So I was always grateful when somebody wanted to come on my show or my podcast. And I just feel like this is my way to sort of pay it forward for all those folks who, when I was, trying to find a guest for a radio show at, 9 o'clock on Friday night, like this is me sort of paying it forward for all those folks who helped me.
Dude, and it's perfect. You don't have to go anywhere. You just log on. Somebody sends you an invite. You got your own dojo there, and you just get down to business.
Absolutely. It's the best.
Well, dude, before we get crazy with fantasy football and, life lessons, advice, I want to talk comics because I saw the show that you, LQ, and Troy do. Both those guys are fire, good buddies of mine. But I want to talk superheroes. You got a kid, I got a kid. They're remaking all these movies. You see records coming back, and now comic books are coming back. This just is vintage nostalgia. So I've got the three guys. I've got Spider-Man, Batman, Iron Man. Just go ahead and lay it down for me. Tell me who is your favorite. And what's your style of comic? Are you a Marvel, a DC? Where are you at with this?
Yeah, well, my favorite has always been Spider-Man, and it's funny that the other two you put up there were Iron Man and Batman, because I always say, like, I always try to compare them, right? Like, I look at Superman. Like, Clark Kent he was literally not one of us. He was an alien from another planet. And like, obviously he was great and wonderful, but he just wasn't human. He was always still trying to learn how to be human. You look at Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne; they were trust fund kids. Even Wonder Woman was like, she was basically a goddess among us, right? Like, she was superhuman, from Themyscira and everything. Like, Peter Parker and then Miles Morales, like, they had real people problems. Like, Peter Parker was trying to work his way through school. Both of them were trying to, get dates and, make the girl next door fall in love with him. Peter Parker had a boss who was a jerk. Like, he had real people problems. And so I think for that reason, I think I've always found it a little bit easier to kind of identify with Spider-Man versus some of the other heroes. And as for what I read, so lately I've been trying to go back and kind of fill in my gaps with some of the Marvel and DC stuff, but I have always sort of been an Image Comics guy. I'll admit that I came to comic books a little bit later in life. And so to jump in, to take any of the legacy superheroes, Batman, Superman, what have you, it's a little intimidating to sort of figure out a spot to jump in when there's already like 80 years worth of stories to kind of dive into. I sort of gravitated to some Image Comics because they tend to have more kind of shorter story arcs and like beginnings and ends. And so it's a little less intimidating to find something new and dive in. But since then, I've really been trying to fill in the gaps and reading more Batman. I just finished reading Civil War II from Marvel. So I'm going through and trying to clean up some of the holes there that I'm missing in my knowledge.
Well, and it's nice to read a comic because it's not watching TV. It's almost like reading a book. You can kind of just zone into the illustrations and everything, and just it's almost peaceful to me.
It is. And, the other part, because it is bright and colorful, my son is 2, so every now and then he'll peep over my shoulder because it's just bright and colorful, and he'll just kind of sit there, for as long as his attention will allow him to, and watch me flip a couple of pages before he runs off to go do something else.
Absolutely. My son, he's 2, was wearing his Spider-Man gear all day yesterday, and my little girls loves the Lizo Kids Bop version of,
Okay.
could have been a bad, whatever. But his favorite dance is he goes like this. He hits you with his webs while he's dancing. So,
boy.
yeah, that's all we do. And then before we move on, my dad, I was telling him this morning, I was talking to you, and he's like, well, tell Marcus I've got the first edition of Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Swamp Man.
Wow.
I was like, okay.
That's pretty amazing, actually. That's
Yeah.
pretty sweet. It's funny, the Doctor Strange movie, the one thing that, as much as I enjoyed it, the one thing that really bothered me was that he gets in this horrific car accident after driving like 120 miles an hour. And the only thing that gets messed up are his hands.
Of course.
Of course. He flips off a cliff like 30 times, and all that gets really messed up were his hands. That always made me laugh.
Just a flaw in the system. I grew up reading the Garfield comics,
right?
Because I was at my grandpa's house, and that's all he had, or the paper Charlie Brown stuff. So I didn't get to dive into as much as the cool comics. So it's cool to see those now. We'll get a comment, and then we'll go. George says, "Sup, gents? Sup, George?
What's going on?"
Let's move on to a little football, man. Everybody knows the top tier RBs, or the guys like Mixon, the guys that people want to be top tier. But we're evolving to a committee backfield approach to what, 2/3 of the league almost.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Ingram, Kamara, you have Chubb and Hunt. Everybody's searching for those golden gooses in the middle rounds of value. So I kind of wanted to bring you on, bring a couple different backfields to your attention, and you kind of walk us through this. And if you see if any of these guys have that potential to be a RB1, RB2, like that kind of tantrum. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with maybe the least sexy one of the group. Maybe I'm wrong, but Denver's backfield, Melvin Gordon, Javonte, both powerhouse runners, have excitement, but kind of fill us in. Do you see between Denver's defense kind of being middle of the road and their offense with Drew Lock, is this a RB backfield you'd want to get shares of?
So I went into NFL draft season as having Javonte Williams as my favorite running back to watch in that rookie class. And so when he immediately got drafted by Denver, my first reaction was I was a little bit hurt. Like my feelings were a little bit hurt about it because I wanted him to go somewhere where he could maybe be a workhorse or a true RB1. But the more I've sat with it and just, talked to people and thought about it, like I'm okay with Williams being there. I think he's going to be the guy to sort of take over by the end of the year. I think early on, you're going to see them share some time. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if Melvin Gordon is the starter in week 1 in the first few weeks of the season. But I do think that by mid to late season, we're going to see the roles kind of switch a little bit, because the thing I loved about Javonte Williams is that you watch him and he might not be as strong as a Najee Harris. He's not as fast as a Travis Etienne. But I thought he does everything really well, even if he's not spectacular in one particular area. In that way, it sort of reminded me of Kareem Hunt, because that was the same way I felt about Kareem Hunt coming out of college, that he's not spectacular at one thing, but he's really good at a lot of things. Throw in the fact that Melvin Gordon likely won't be back in Denver after this season. So I think things kind of set up for Williams. He's the guy that I would want more out of that group. You can get him a few rounds later. And as long as you can be patient and wait maybe the first 4 or 5 weeks, then I think after that, you're going to have maybe not an RB1 in overall fantasy terms, but I think he will be the RB1 in Denver by the end of the year.
Do you see, I saw like Melvin Gordon didn't have a lot of check down passes, had 32 receptions. And we didn't see a lot of Javonte in college just catch the ball with Michael Carter, all that. Do you think they have a pass down back that just kind of, is this something they can split up the work there? Or do you feel like out the gates, Melvin Gordon's just going to get all the work?
No, I think that's where I think they will split it up. I mean, I think you'll see, Gordon on the field. Probably, I think he'll get the majority of the snaps in the first few weeks. But I think Williams is a pretty good pass catcher as well. So I think he can certainly excel in that area. Melvin Gordon can catch the football. It's just that, last year they just didn't throw it to him. I mean, we saw him do that when he was with the Chargers. He would catch the ball pretty effectively down there. So I think they're going to kind of split the work, because there's nobody else in that backfield that I'm really concerned about. So I think most of the pass catching work is going to be split between them. I mean, let's also keep in mind that they've got a pretty good receiving group, with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and those guys. So a lot of that work is going to go there. But I do think that whatever they're lacking in terms of total touches, one of them is going to make up for in terms of targets and catches.
Okay. Let's move it. Let's keep the good times rolling. More rookie talk, man. Yums from last year. James Robinson just took over. Everybody fell in love with this, undrafted darling, 6th round, whatever. And then Etienne, Urban Meyer, all sorts of crazy stuff. James Robinson, is he still going to have relevancy in redraft? Is he going to be able to? Would you say he's in the RB2 range still?
Yeah, I think he still is. I really do think he still is. And you talked about the Ingram Kamara pairing from a few years ago in New Orleans. I am sort of hoping that this is something like that. That's how they use these guys in Jacksonville. That Etienne is that speed back. He's the pass catcher. They want to get him out in space. Robinson is more the traditional between the tackles runner, and especially if he's got that touchdown upside. If they're using him, inside the 5, down near the goal line, then I think he can still be productive. Here's the thing. I didn't believe that James Robinson was going to get a workload like he did last year. I didn't think that was going to happen this year. Last year, I felt like was sort of the perfect storm where you had some guys, opting out because of COVID. You had some guys hurt. And when the dust settled, James Robinson was the last man standing and did a great job with it. But I also don't think that was how the Jaguars ever planned to use him. I didn't think, though, that they were going to go out and get, arguably one of the 3 best backs in this draft class. I didn't see that quite happening. But I'm really hoping that they find a way to kind of, separate the roles. And both guy has a role to play. Now, my other fear, and I hope this doesn't come true, is that Urban Meyer decides to use Tim Tebow sort of like the Saints use Taysom Hill. My biggest fear is that they get down to the goal line and suddenly it's Tebow in there, running the wildcat from the 2 or throwing jump passes, because that completely wrecks everything. But as long as that doesn't happen, I think there is a path for both of these guys to sort of finish as, mid-range RB2s. I think that's kind of the ceiling. I think RB2 is sort of the ceiling for both of them. But I think, if you're drafting them as that, I think you'll be pretty pleased with what you get.
You mentioned Tebow, and of course, everybody's got an opinion. Tebow mania, man. You see the guns. He's ripped. He's hulking up. Dude, is Tebow going to put up we don't know. Obviously, nobody thinks he can just step right in day one and be an NFL tight end. But I'm sure we've seen crazier stuff.
We have. I was saying this. Tim Tebow is not going to be. I see Troy down there dropping in with comments too. You can hush.
Yeah.
Troy can hush.
Yeah.
No, I don't think Tebow's going to be. He's not going to be good enough for anybody to want to have him on their fantasy roster. My fear is that he's going to do just enough, though, to wreck everybody else's year, right? Like he's going to do enough, take a little food off the plate of Robinson and Etienne and, maybe DJ Chark or something
just
like
that.
Just
make you mad, basically.
Just to make you up, just like Taysom Hill. Like Taysom Hill really wasn't great enough. Like if he wasn't playing quarterback, he wasn't really good enough to start any weeks, but he would do just enough to kind of make you upset because you had somebody else on that team.
That's what makes it fun, though. All these different weapons and the way coaches can scheme up all these players. The game's just evolved so much that you don't have to rely on one player to win. Good times rolling, baby. I think this is the sexiest backfield that a lot of people, I don't know if they're high on, they're low on. I know everybody's low on Jacobs right now. And I have my concerns with the O-line, the defense. But, dude, Drake's a baller. Jacobs, when he's healthy, he's a baller. This to me seems like the closest we can get to Chubb Hunt if we're lucky. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? It might be. And I think we just have to change the way we think about Josh Jacobs, right? We wanted, the first year we thought, okay, well, maybe the Raiders will throw him the football and that's going to be great. They didn't. Then year 2, we're like, all right, well, maybe it's going to happen this year. In fact, I think week 1, maybe the first couple weeks, he had a decent number of targets and we thought, all right, well, maybe this is going to happen. And then it didn't. Like he just never saw targets. And so I think at this point we have to stop wishing and wanting for him to be a pass catcher in the offense. And I think that now that Drake is there, I think we just sort of are resigned to the fact that he's going to be the guy catching the football out of that backfield. So I do think there will be 2 very well delineated roles, right? You're going to have Drake as kind of that third down sort of back. You're going to have Jacobs as the first 2 downs potentially as that between the tackles guy. And hopefully he's the guy with the touchdown upside. My only fear with both of these guys is that, can the Raiders score enough for both of them to be viable and productive? I think they'll move the football. I think there will be targets for Drake. I think Jacobs will have a fair number of touches. But if the Raiders aren't scoring points overall, then is that going to put a cap on how much production they can have? Their defense is such that I think they're going to have to,
they'll be on the field a lot.
They're going to be on the field a lot. So that's a help. I just hope that they have enough offense that both these guys are viable.
Such an interesting backfield. I've always felt like Drake's kind of underrated. I don't know if it's just because he's not the total back, but what he did in Arizona with Edmonds, and you saw Edmonds by himself, what he did, it was nothing.
Right.
But then for Drake to just kind of everybody was down on him second half, he was aces. So it's cool to see, man.
It is. It's funny. I feel like both those guys, when you talk about Drake and Edmonds, like they were great together. Like I feel like they sort of needed each other, right? I sort of wonder if that's going to help Josh Jacobs, because I don't know that the Raiders believe he can be a 3-down, do everything back, right? So now they just let him focus on being that runner on first and second down. Drake can come in, he can be the hurry up back, he can be the pass catching back. Maybe it's sort of like they form like Voltron and they end up being one really great back as opposed to them like trying to carry the load on their own and not really being able to.
I like it. I didn't put them in the slides, but I do have that, you get that where you're just brainstorming. It's almost like you're zoning out. Josh, or what's his name? James Conner. When he plays, he puts up points in bunches. And he's walking into that Drake role where Drake, RB 16 last year?
Mm-hmm.
Is there maybe something there if Conner you're not paying anything for him?
I think that's the upside there, is that the draft price is really nice for James Conner. I think if we were drafting him like we were a couple of years ago in Pittsburgh and asking that sort of draft price, then I think I would probably be out. But because of where you're getting him, and chances are, depending on how your draft stacks up, maybe you already have one, maybe two other solid running backs. And then I think at that point, Conner is a nice, he's a nice reward over the risk at that point. But I feel like that's a backfield that I've stayed away from because I'm not 100% sure how it shakes out. I know that,
but they were RB2s, both of them were.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I stayed away from it, but I can make a case for James Conner, especially based on the draft value.
All right. Well, are you staying away from Edmonds or Jacobs in PPR this year?
I would
Dave.
Yeah, I would probably lean more towards Jacobs because I do think he's going to get more work. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Edmonds is going to have, I think he may end up having more catches just because of how that Arizona offense works. But I do think that Jacobs is going to kind of get more touches overall than Edmonds will be. Plus, with Arizona, they also still have that very good wide receiver room. They got Nuke. They added AJ Green, who I know is not the same guy as he once was, but still can be good. They like Christian Kirk. They drafted they got Rondale Moore. So they've got a lot of guys that they can throw the football to, and that's going to take some away from Edmonds as well.
Real quick, David, I was talking to Dave earlier, and he said, I posted something about Mike Davis, and he said, ask you something about his thighs. I was like, what are you talking about?
I just have this thing. It's just funny how like all these guys, all these football players post, photos of themselves. Either they post it or the team will post it, photos of themselves. And like, especially Mike Davis with his like huge calf.
He looks like the Beetlejuice character with the small head.
Right? Like, but you see these pictures of him with these like, his thigh muscles have muscles, right? And like, then fantasy Twitter kind of goes nuts and like a guy's ADP spikes after that. So it makes me laugh because I'm like, well, yeah, they're really physically fit guys. This is what they do for a living.
Like, you get paid to work out. Let's do it.
Like, I hope he looks like he's been in great shape. Like he's been working out all off season. So
he's an interesting one as well, dude. We're done with football. I'm going to hit you with. We got a little bit of time. I'm going to hit you with a couple, and then just give us a little words of wisdom.
Cool.
Mortal Kombat or Sonic? Which one did you play as a kid?
I was more about Sonic than Mortal Kombat. It was pretty close, but I think I leaned Sonic in that one.
Getting the rings, passing the sticks.
Just the speed, man. That was just I was like a speed demon.
Now kids watch kids play video games. It's crazy. I can't get it. All right, one more. Old school wrestling. Macho Man or Stone Cold. Have a beer with Marcus and Twice on Sunday. What?
Yeah, I gotta go with the Macho Man.
Macho Marcus. Yeah, nobody does it better. Marcus, dude, you've done it all, dude. Joey, great show. Love Joey. He's on Razzball. Check him out for sure. Dude, like you said, there's so many of us out here, and it's nice to see. Before we get out of here, just drop us a word of wisdom or two.
I mean, I think the one thing is just keep doing it. Like, there are so many more avenues now than when I first started. I mean, YouTube was a thing, but people weren't using YouTube then the way they are now. We didn't have Instagram wasn't the thing when I first started in this job. TikTok was definitely not a thing. So there's so many more ways to kind of, get your work out there and to be a lot more creative about it now than when I first started. So I just say keep doing it because, it's look, there's a lot of folks out there. So I think it's whatever way you can do to kind of break through to kind of get that shine a little bit, I say go for it. But also just have fun, man, because like this is a game about a game. Like we are talking about to quote Allen Iverson, or to paraphrase Allen Iverson, I guess we're talking about a game, like right. Yeah. It's just something to have fun with, right? So don't stress yourself out on doing this. Don't burn yourself out, especially in June. Because we have one more week. We have an extra week this season, everybody. So don't burn yourself out on this in June because you're gonna need that stamina when you get to like October, November.
I'm fairly new, and I always say two things: you gotta learn to crawl before you can walk, and just enjoy today. Don't stress so much out about a week from now. Just live in the moment, man. It goes too fast.
Like Marshawn said, man, protect your mentals, protect your chicken. That's good advice.
Beast mode, dude. Troy, not Troy. God dang it, Troy. You won again. You're on my mind, dude. Marcus, thank you. NFL Network, your website. You're all over the place, dude. And you're kicking ass and taking names, dude. Cool. Thank you. Any last words before we blow it out of here?
Other than, look, man, I appreciate the invitation. It's always nice to be invited places. Just everybody, let's all take a breath. Let's enjoy the summer. Let's go outside. And then we will strap it on for real come mid-July when training camps open, and then it's live.
The words of Macho Marcus, nobody does it better. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're out of here. Till next time. Elizabeth, let's go.